The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session within hours of the alien vessel's arrival. Captain Alina Shepard stood before world leaders, the crystal invitation pulsing with soft blue light in her hand. The galactic conglomerate has invited us to compete for leadership of the known universe, she explained, her voice steady despite the absurdity of her own words. We have 30 Earth days to accept or decline. President Alvarez of the Pan-American Alliance leaned forward. And what happens if we decline, Captain? According to Ambassador Zixtel, nothing immediate. Earth remains unaffiliated with the conglomerate. We continue our development in isolation until we eventually encounter them through natural expansion. And if we accept, asked Premier Chen. Alina activated the holographic projector she'd been given. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with thousands of star systems highlighted in various colors. We would be competing against 26 other civilizations, most of which achieved spaceflight thousands of years before humans discovered electricity. The trials will test leadership, resourcefulness, military strategy, and diplomatic ability. The Russian representative scoffed. This is clearly some form of entertainment for these advanced beings. They invite the primitive species to participate, knowing we'll be eliminated immediately. Perhaps, Alina conceded, but Ambassador Zixtal mentioned something interesting. The last 3 galactic rulers were not from the most technologically advanced civilizations. They were species that demonstrated unexpected qualities. The debate raged for days. Scientific communities clamored for acceptance, seeing unprecedented opportunities to advance human knowledge. Military leaders warned of potential extinction if Earth appeared weak. Religious groups proclaimed everything from apocalypse to divine intervention. Meanwhile, Alina studied the data package provided by the conglomerate. She learned of the Morithian ascendancy, crystalline beings who had evolved beyond biological limitations, the Vrekan Dominion, conquerors who had subjugated 11 planetary systems, the Psychic Collective, hive-minded insectoids with unparalleled computational abilities. Each species possessed technology that seemed like magic by Earth standards. On the 7th day, Alina received a private message from Ambassador Zixtel requesting her presence aboard the conglomerate vessel. She found the towering alien in a chamber filled with swirling holographic displays. Captain Shepard, I've been monitoring your world's response to our invitation. Your species appears divided. We have different opinions about important decisions. It's how we progress. Fascinating, said Zixtel, blinking his 4 eyes in sequence. Most species at your development stage operate under unified governance. Is that why you think we'll fail? The alien's mouthparts curved in what might have been a smile. I've observed 17 succession trials, Captain. The outcome is never what anyone expects. He gestured to a display showing Earth. Your species has accomplished more technological advancement in the past century than the Vrekans achieved in a millennium. You adapt quickly. It's intriguing. You don't sound as dismissive as you did during our first meeting. Official protocol requires certain appearances. Unofficially, I've wagered a considerable sum on your species advancing past the first trial. Alina raised an eyebrow. You're betting on us. The potential return on such an unlikely outcome is substantial. The ambassador's tone became serious. But be warned, Captain. Some participants view new species as threats rather than curiosities. If humans show promise, you will make dangerous enemies. 3 days later, the Security Council voted. Earth would compete. When Alina delivered their decision to Ambassador Zixtal, he presented her with 12 ornate badges. Choose your team carefully, Captain Shepard, he said, his voice grave. The first trial begins in 60 days, and the fate of your species may depend on your selections. As Alina left the alien vessel, she gazed at Earth floating below, peaceful and blue. She wondered if she would ever see it again. The journey to the celestial arena took 17 days in the conglomerate vessel. Alina's team used every moment to prepare, studying the data packages on competing species and running simulations based on historical succession trials. Dr. Kwame Osei, Earth's foremost strategic theorist, gathered the team in their assigned habitat ring. The circular chamber adapted its environment to human physiology, though the slightly purple lighting and the subtle vibration underfoot constantly reminded them they were far from home. The Morithians will approach problems with perfect logic, Kwame explained, displaying holographic profiles of their competitors. The Vreckens rely on overwhelming force. The psychic process information collectively. We need to identify what makes humans unique. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, their diplomatic specialist, looked up from her notes. Unpredictability might be our advantage. Most of these species have established patterns of behavior refined over thousands of years. Exactly, agreed Elena. We need to be the variable they can't calculate. Their arrival at the celestial arena silenced all conversation. The massive structure hung in space like a jeweled crown, its rotating rings generating artificial gravity for dozens of different physiologies. Ships from across the galaxy surrounded it, some organic-looking, others geometric and crystalline. As they disembarked, Elena noticed the stares from other species. Some appeared curious, others dismissive, and a few, particularly the Vrecken delegation with their metallic scales and amber eyes, seemed openly hostile. Ambassador Zixtal guided them to their quarters. The first trial begins tomorrow. I suggest you rest. What exactly is this first trial testing? Asked Elena. Resource management during catastrophe. That is all I can reveal. After the ambassador left, Dr. Eliza Okoro, their xenobiologist, activated a scanner she'd smuggled aboard. Our quarters are monitored, she whispered. Audio and visual. They weren't surprised. James Huang, their security specialist, had anticipated surveillance. He initiated the countermeasures they'd prepared, creating a small zone where they could speak freely. We need to consider that every challenge will be designed with advanced technology in mind, said Kwame. But human history is filled with solutions developed under technological constraints. When the first trial began the next morning, they entered a vast simulation chamber. Each species was assigned an identical scenario, a planetary system facing imminent supernova, with limited evacuation resources and billions of lives at stake. The Vreckens immediately began designing massive warships to evacuate their military and elites. The Morithians created complex algorithms to select the most genetically diverse population sample. Other species adopted various approaches based on their values and technological capabilities. Elena watched her team carefully. Dr. Osei studied the simulation parameters, then smiled. They've given us a problem they think requires technology we don't have, he said. But Earth has faced resource scarcity and evacuation challenges throughout our history. Their approach was radically different. Instead of focusing solely on evacuation, they implemented distributed survival networks, using the planet's existing infrastructure to create sustainable havens that could withstand the stellar event. They designed overlapping systems where communities supported each other through cascading crises. When the simulation concluded, the judges, ancient AI constructs from the original Theraxian Empire, processed the results. The massive holographic leaderboard flickered, and stunned murmurs spread through the chamber as Terra, Sol 3, appeared in third position. General Krax of the Vrecken Dominion, whose species ranked fifth, stormed toward the human delegation. His scales bristled with anger. Impossible, he hissed. You must have cheated. Elena stood her ground, or perhaps you underestimated us. This means nothing, the general growled. The real trials require more than clever programming. As they returned to their quarters that evening, Elena noticed someone had accessed their terminals. Data files were slightly rearranged, search histories examined. They're studying us now, she told her team. We're no longer just an amusement. Dr. O.C. nodded solemnly. Good. Let them study. They'll find what all human adversaries eventually discover. And what's that? Asked Lieutenant Chen. that understanding humans and predicting humans are entirely different challenges. The second trial began in a vast chamber with 20 separate negotiation pods suspended in anti-gravity fields. Each team received identical briefings on ancient conflicts between fictional species, with minimal context about cultural backgrounds or historical grievances. Dr. Maya Chen studied the materials with growing frustration. These profiles are deliberately vague. We're supposed to broker peace without understanding the underlying issues. That's the point, said Alina. The telepathic species like the Zithari can simply read intentions. We need a different approach. Maya's expertise in reconstructing ancient human civilizations from fragmentary evidence suddenly proved invaluable. She began analyzing the subtle clues in the provided materials, linguistic patterns, ceremonial descriptions, territorial claims, and assembled psychological profiles of each fictional species. Look at these territorial boundaries, she pointed to a holographic map. They follow natural features except in this region, where they cut straight across a resource-rich area. That suggests a hasty resolution to a previous conflict, probably imposed by a third party. Lieutenant Huang nodded appreciatively. You're reconstructing their history from context clues. Exactly. And if we understand their history, we can anticipate their grievances. The negotiation phase began with teams entering virtual environments, where AI constructs portrayed the conflicting parties. The Morithians approached the task with mathematical precision, calculating optimal resource distribution. The Vrekkans imposed solutions through intimidation. The telepathic Zithari seemed to have an insurmountable advantage, immediately sensing the AI construct's priorities and concerns. The human team took a different approach. Maya had identified key cultural markers, suggesting one species valued ancestral recognition above material gain. Alina leveraged this insight, proposing a settlement that acknowledged historical claims while creating practical sharing arrangements. When negotiations reached an impasse over a seemingly minor ceremonial site, Lieutenant Huang suggested an approach inspired by Earth's Cold War resolutions, creating a joint stewardship program that allowed both parties to claim victory while establishing mechanisms for ongoing cooperation. The solution worked brilliantly, though when final rankings appeared, humans placed fifth. The telepathic advantages had proven too significant to overcome entirely. That evening, Alina sat alone in their communal area, reviewing data for the next trial when her personal terminal chimed with an anonymous message. The screen displayed security footage showing Vrekkan operatives tampering with environmental controls near the human quarters. Captain, we have a problem. Alina gathered her team, showing them the footage. They're targeting our life support systems. We should report this to the conglomerate authorities, suggested Dr. Okoro. Lieutenant Huang shook his head. The Vrekkans have allies among the judges. We need our own allies. Alina had noticed the insectoid Siktik representatives watching the Vrekkans with obvious hostility throughout the competition. I have an idea. She navigated the lower levels of the station until she found the Siktik delegation's quarters, an environment heavy with moisture and vibrating with subsonic communications. The guards, 8-limbed warriors with chitinous armor, initially blocked her entry. I seek audience with your queen regarding mutual enemies, Alina said, using the formal phrasing she'd studied. The chamber beyond pulsed with bioluminescent light. The Siktik queen, her abdomen swollen with eggs, rested on a living throne surrounded by attendants. Her multifaceted eyes study Alina with alien intensity. Human captain comes seeking alliance. The queen's words translated in Alina's earpiece. What does Earth offer the collective? Alina revealed the samples she'd brought, caffeine compounds and certain earth spices that Eliza had discovered would act as powerful stimulants to Siktik neurochemistry. The queen's antennae quivered with interest. And what does human captain desire in return? Information about Vrekkan movements, intelligence about the coming trials. The queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Clever mammals learning galactic games quickly. She extended a limb toward Alina. The collective agrees to limited exchange. Enemies of Wrekin Dominion may become temporary friends. As Elena left the Psychic quarters, she felt eyes watching from the shadows. The competition had evolved beyond tests and trials. Now it was about survival and alliance building in a dangerous new political landscape. Humanity's diplomatic skills would be tested in ways no simulation could prepare them for. The virtual reality chamber for the third trial dwarfed all previous arenas. As Elena and her team entered, their bodies were scanned and digitally recreated within a vast simulation of interstellar space. Each team received command of identical fleets positioned at strategic locations across a contested star system. General Krax of the Vrekins stood on his command platform, his scales gleaming with prideful bioluminescence. "This trial has been my personal domain for 8 successive competitions," he announced loudly enough for the human team to hear. "Your primitive minds cannot comprehend the complexity of void warfare." Dr. Osi ignored the taunt, studying the fleet configurations and system topography with intense concentration. The human team gathered around their holographic display while other species arranged themselves according to their own command structures. "Conventional wisdom dictates securing resource-rich planets first," Osai explained. "Every species will follow standard tactical doctrines taught at their military academies." "But we haven't had interstellar military academies," Elena observed. "Exactly," Osei smiled. "We have something better. Thousands of years of asymmetric warfare. Guerrilla tactics, chess strategies where sacrificing pieces creates victory conditions. Military history where the technologically inferior force prevailed through superior strategy." The simulation began with a flurry of movement as fleets maneuvered across the system. The Morithians implemented perfect geometric formations. The Vrekins deployed aggressive frontal assaults. The hive-minded Psychic coordinated simultaneous multi-vector approaches. The human team did something no one expected. They split their forces into seemingly haphazard groupings, some appearing to wander aimlessly while others took defensive positions that protected no obvious assets. "What are they doing?" muttered observers from other species. "Their formation makes no sense." Krax laughed dismissively. "The primates don't understand basic military doctrine." The first engagements proved otherwise. While other species fought for predictable objectives, the human forces created false patterns that baited opponents into traps. They sacrificed destroyer squadrons to give the impression of retreat, then ambushed pursuing forces with concealed cruisers. They ignored valuable planets to target seemingly insignificant communication nodes and supply lines. "Their strategy is madness," complained the Vrekin subcommander. "No," corrected Krax, his amusement transforming into concern. "There is method to their chaos." By the simulation's midpoint, the battle had evolved into direct confrontation between the Vrekin armada and the human fleet. Krax deployed his forces in textbook-perfect formations, overwhelming human squadrons through superior firepower. Elena and Osai countered by abandoning conventional defensive positions and instead targeting unexpected vulnerabilities in the Vrekin command structure. "They're adapting to our tactics," Elena observed as the Vrekins modified their approach. "Then we change again," Osai replied. "Earth's military history is filled with radical strategic shifts mid-battle." For the final confrontation, Krax marshaled his remaining forces into an impenetrable defensive sphere around his command ships, a formation considered unbreakable in galactic military doctrine. The human team studied the formation silently. "Lieutenant Huang," Elena finally said, "what was that strategy you mentioned from Earth's 20th century submarine warfare?" Huang smiled. "The Wolfpack approach. Instead of attacking the strongest point, we target what they think is secure," finished Osei. The human fleet scattered into dozens of small attack groups, each too insignificant for the Vrekins to consider threatening. As Krax focused on the larger human capital ships, these small groups slipped through defensive screens and converged on the Vrekin command vessels from multiple vectors simultaneously. The simulation ended with shocking swiftness. The Vrekin command ships destroyed. Their perfect formation collapsed into disarray. When the scores appeared, Humans had achieved first place in the trial, pushing them to second overall in the competition. The observation gallery erupted in stunned conversations. As teams exited the simulation chamber, Alina caught General Krax's gaze. The reptilian commander's eyes narrowed with unmistakable hatred. "Enjoy your momentary victory, human," he hissed quietly as they passed. "My species does not forget humiliation. The real battle has just begun." Alina stared at the encrypted message from their insectic allies with growing horror. The insectoid species had infiltrated Vrekan communications and discovered plans for a stealth attack on Earth. 3 bioweapon-equipped vessels had already departed, using technology that would make them virtually undetectable to Earth's primitive defense systems. She gathered her team in their secure communication zone. "The Vrekans have launched an attack on Earth. Bioweapons designed to eliminate human life while leaving the planet habitable for colonization." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We need to warn Earth immediately," said Dr. Okoro. "If we withdraw from the competition to return home, we forfeit our position," Lieutenant Chen pointed out. "The Vrekans win either way." Lieutenant Huang paced the small, secure area. "There's a third option. Risky, but it might save Earth and keep us in the competition." His plan was audacious. Infiltrate the station's central communications hub and broadcast evidence of the Vrekan plot on all conglomerate channels. Such an action violated numerous competition protocols, but the stakes transcended the succession trials. "I'll do it," Huang said. "My security training gives me the best chance of success." "No," Alina decided. "This is my responsibility. You'll guide me remotely, but I'll make the breach." That night, Alina slipped through maintenance corridors, following Huang's directions through her earpiece. The Tic-Tic had provided access codes to bypass initial security systems, but the final approach required manual override. "The main junction is ahead," Huang whispered in her ear. 3 guards, all relaxed species. Their vision is poor in low light. Alina disabled the corridor illumination and moved silently past the guards. The communication hub beyond pulsed with energy as it managed transmissions across thousands of light years. Working quickly, she uploaded the Tic-Tic intelligence and appended a message. "Attention Galactic Conglomerate. The Vrekan Dominion has violated competition neutrality protocols by launching an unprovoked attack against Earth using prohibited bioweapons. The coordinates of their vessels are attached. Immediate intervention is requested under Section 47 of the Conglomerate Charter." She transmitted the message across all channels: competitive, diplomatic, commercial, and military, ensuring maximum distribution before security systems could block it. Alarms blared throughout the station as Alina was apprehended by conglomerate security forces. Within hours, the Galactic Security Council convened an emergency session. Alina stood before representatives of the 20 most powerful species in the galaxy, the Vrekan delegation glaring at her from across the chamber. "Captain Shepard," began the ancient Morithian counselor, his crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. "You have violated multiple protocols governing the succession trials. The penalty for such violations is disqualification." "Counselor," Alina responded, "Earth was facing extinction. The Vrekan attack constitutes a far greater violation." "A fabricated accusation," snarled General Krax. "Where is your evidence?" "Intercepted by conglomerate vessels near the Sol system," announced a representative of the Judicial Division. The chamber erupted in murmurs as holographic footage displayed Vrekan ships being captured, their bioweapon payloads confirmed. The council deliberated for hours. When they reconvened, the Morithian counselor addressed the chamber. "The Vrekan attack constitutes a grievous violation of conglomerate law. However, Captain Shepard's unauthorized use of communication systems cannot be overlooked. The human team will continue in the competition with penalty points that place them fourth in current standings." Alina accepted the ruling without protest. As she left the chamber, she was surprised to find representatives from 7 different species waiting for her. The Tic-Tic ambassador stepped forward, mandibles clicking. Your actions demonstrated principles of leadership the galaxy has not seen in millennia. You placed your people's survival above competition glory. Our delegations have submitted a joint statement supporting Earth's continued participation. Thank you, Elena said, genuinely moved. But why would you support us? A tall avian delegate answered. The Vreckens have dominated through fear for too long. Perhaps it takes a species with nothing to lose to finally challenge their power. That evening, as the station's lights dimmed to simulate night, Elena received the coordinates for the final trials. Nexus 9, a death world at the galaxy's edge where survival itself would be the greatest challenge. The transport vessels descended through Nexus 9's toxic atmosphere, buffeted by winds strong enough to tear apart conventional aircraft. Through the viewport, Elena watched lightning storms illuminate landscapes that defied rational geology. Floating rock formations, rivers that flowed upward, and vegetation that seemed to move with predatory intent. The planet undergoes severe gravitational fluctuations, explained Dr. Okoro, studying her instruments. The entire ecosystem has evolved to adapt to constantly changing conditions. The vessels landed in a central safe zone where competition officials had established a temporary base. Each team received environmental suits calibrated to their biology and basic survival equipment. The rules were simple. 5 artifacts had been placed across different biomes. Teams would have 72 hours to retrieve as many as possible. Survival was not guaranteed. Our suits have half the protection capability of the other species, Lieutenant Huang noted grimly. They're expecting us to fail immediately. Dr. Osei studied the topographical maps. Most teams will sprint for the closest artifacts. They'll expend maximum energy in the initial push. And we won't, asked Elena. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Dr. Okoro interjected. Our ancestors could track prey for days, maintaining a steady pace while other predators exhausted themselves. Elena nodded. Then we maintain a sustainable pace. Let them sprint ahead. The competition began at dawn. The Vreckens and crystalline Morithians immediately charged toward the nearest artifacts. The human team moved at a measured pace, conserving energy and carefully monitoring their environmental readings. By midday, they watched other teams struggling. The Vreckens' armored bodies, normally an advantage, became a liability in the swamp regions where they sank deep into the muck. The Morithians moved efficiently in areas with strong light, but slowed considerably in shadowed valleys. Dr. Okoro made a fascinating discovery as they traversed a dense jungle region. The local plants respond to specific hormonal signatures. Using extracts from our medical kit, we can trigger defensive responses that might deter predators or attract them to other teams' positions. They strategically deploy these plant triggers, creating safe corridors for themselves while redirecting dangerous wildlife toward competing teams. On the second day, a massive gravity storm hit without warning. The planet's gravitational field distorted wildly, causing rock formations to shatter and terrain to reshape itself. The human team found shelter in a cave system, where they encountered a wounded Vrecken soldier abandoned by his squad. "Leave me," the Vrecken hissed, green blood seeping from a gash in his environmental suit. "We are enemies." Elena hesitated only briefly before applying emergency sealant to his suit. "Today, we're just survivors." The Vrecken watched in confusion as Elena administered emergency medical treatment. "Why help your competitor?" "Because that's what humans do," she replied simply. Unknown to both, monitoring drones recorded the entire interaction. By the third day, the human team had secured 3 artifacts, placing them ahead of most competitors. The final artifact lay in a region of extreme temperature fluctuations where the surface froze and liquefied in rapid cycles. "The Morithians will have a significant advantage there," observed Dr. Osei. "Their crystalline forms resist temperature changes." "Then we don't compete on their terms," Elena decided. "We find another way." They located an underground passage that bypassed the worst of the surface conditions. The route was longer but allowed them to approach the artifact location from behind, while other teams battled the elements head-on. As the competition timer counted down its final hours, the human team emerged from the tunnel system directly beneath the artifact's location. While the Morithians struggled against sudden heat storms on their approach, Alina scaled a relatively stable rock formation and secured the final prize. When the extraction vessels arrived, only 16 of the original 27 teams had survived. The humans emerged with 4 artifacts, placing them first in this trial. The Morithians secured 3, while the Vrekkins, despite their technology and physical advantages, claimed only 2 after losing team members to the planet's hazards. As they departed Nexus 9, Alina noticed other species studying the humans with new expressions, something beyond curiosity or disdain. In the eyes of some, she recognized a sentiment she hadn't seen before: respect. The neural immersion chambers resembled translucent cocoons suspended in a vast, circular hall. Each competing team would enter simultaneously, their minds projected into a perfect historical recreation of the Thyraxian Civil War that had ended the previous galactic empire 10,000 years ago. Before entering their chamber, Alina gathered her team for final preparations. Dr. Diaz, you've studied the limited Thyraxian historical records we have access to. What are we missing? The historian rubbed his temples thoughtfully. The records are deliberately vague. We know the Thyraxians achieved technological marvels beyond even current conglomerate capabilities. We know their empire spanned most of the galaxy, and we know they destroyed themselves in a civil war that lasted less than a standard year but devastated thousands of worlds. What caused the conflict? Asked Lieutenant Chen. That's what's missing from the records, replied Diaz. The why has been redacted. I believe that's what this trial is truly testing: our ability to discern root causes, not just implement solutions. The chamber sealed around them with a soft hiss. Neural interfaces activated, connecting their consciousness to the simulation. Reality dissolved, replaced by the splendor of the Thyraxian homeworld during the Empire's golden age. The humans found themselves observing as non-participants at first, watching the magnificent civilization at its peak. The Thyraxians resembled tall, graceful humanoids with iridescent skin and features that seemed to shift subtly depending on emotional states. Their cities were architectural marvels that blended seamlessly with natural environments, technology so advanced it appeared magical. Then came the first signs of trouble, subtle at first, then increasingly obvious. Whispered conversations, public protests, military movements. The simulation accelerated through key moments, leading to the outbreak of hostilities, providing visceral, first-hand experiences of pivotal events. It's not a religious conflict, observed Alina. Not ideological either. Look at the population distribution, said Dr. Diaz, displaying data he'd been collecting. The outer colonies are resource-rich but receive minimal representation in the Imperial Council. The inner systems control technology distribution, keeping advanced developments centralized. Classic colonialism, nodded Lieutenant Chen. The periphery subsidizes the core while being denied equal rights and technology access. But there's more, continued Diaz. The Thyraxians were beginning to diverge genetically. Outer colony populations were adapting to their environments, developing traits the central government considered impure. As the simulation reached the outbreak of actual fighting, the teams were suddenly pulled back into an administrative interface. You now understand the conflict parameters, announced the ancient Thyraxian AI moderating the trial. Each team will implement their solution within an isolated branch of the simulation. You may alter any variables from the starting conditions observed. You have 12 hours. The Morithian team immediately began developing an elegant technological solution, a neural network linking all Thyraxians in perfect harmony, eliminating misunderstanding and creating consensus through shared experience. The Vrekkins implemented overwhelming military strategy, deploying superior forces to crush the rebellion within days, preserving the empire through decisive action and strength. The human team took a fundamentally different approach. We're not trying to win the war, Dr. Diaz explained. We're trying to prevent it entirely. They restructured the imperial governance system, creating proportional representation that gave outer colonies a voice equal to their contributions. They established technology-sharing protocols that maintained central innovation while ensuring colonies received advancements necessary for their development. Most importantly, they implemented cultural recognition programs that celebrated genetic diversity as evolutionary strength rather than impurity. When implementation began, their simulation branch diverged dramatically from history. Instead of collapse, the Thyraxian civilization entered a renaissance as diverse perspectives fueled new innovations and exploration. After 3 days of evaluation, the ancient eye emerged from its deliberation. The competing teams assembled in the Great Hall as holographic displays showed the results of each approach. The Morithian solution achieves harmony through technological unification, the AI announced. The Vrekan solution preserves imperial structure through superior force. Both methods would have extended the Empire's lifespan significantly. The AI paused, its avatar's features shifting thoughtfully. The human solution alone addresses the fundamental flaws that made conflict inevitable. While others treated symptoms with varying degrees of success, only Terra identified and remedied the disease itself. The announcement triggered shock throughout the chamber. Earth had won the succession trials. 1 year after their victory, Alina stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Terran embassy on the conglomerate capital world. The sprawling city below reflected thousands of alien architectures merged into a chaotic yet beautiful urban landscape. Earth's victory had sent shockwaves through galactic society, with reactions ranging from celebration to outright rebellion. Dr. O.C. joined her, datapad in hand. The Vrekan Dominion has formally rejected our authority again. They've withdrawn from 3 more diplomatic summits and begun military exercises along disputed borders. And the others? Elena asked. Mixed responses. The Morithians have accepted our victory with their typical logical pragmatism. The Tyktic Collective fully supports us. Most mid-tier civilizations are cautiously engaging with our new governance model. The traditional approach would have been to assert authority through displays of power, exactly what the Vrekans expected. Instead, the human leadership team had implemented something revolutionary. The Terran Galactic Council, with representatives from all willing species serving as equals rather than subjects. Send a personal message to General Krax, Alina decided. Invite him to Earth, not as a diplomat, as my personal guest. He'll consider it a trap, warned Ose. Then we'll need to make the invitation impossible to refuse. 3 months later, Alina welcomed the Vrekan general to the ancient city of Geneva. His massive frame dwarfed the human diplomats surrounding him, his scales shifting with barely contained hostility. Why bring me to this primitive world? Krax demanded. To gloat over your victory. To show you something no Vrekan has seen. Alina replied. Follow me. She led him to a secure facility beneath the United Nations complex. Inside, scientists worked on technology that made the general freeze in shock. This is impossible, he whispered. These are terraforming protocols that could transform dead worlds into habitable environments. My species has sought this technology for generations to escape our overcrowded homeworld. We developed it by combining human biotechnology with Morithian energy principles, Alina explained. And we're offering it to the Vrekan Dominion without conditions. There are always conditions. Krax's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Only one. Join the council as equals. Not as rulers, not as subjects. As partners. The general studied her face for deception. Why would you share such power? Because humanity learned long ago that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. Your people need resources. Others need security. Some need technology. Together, we all thrive. Within 5 years, the galactic landscape transformed dramatically. The Terran approach to governance, combining democratic processes, technological sharing, and cultural autonomy, created unprecedented cooperation between formerly hostile species. Scientific advancement accelerated beyond anything seen in millennia as humanity's creative thinking broke through stagnant research methodologies. The Vrekan threat diminished gradually as their civilization gained access to resources they desperately needed. General Krax never became friendly, but his pragmatic acceptance of the new order influenced his people to engage with the council system. On the 10th anniversary of Earth's victory, representatives from all known intelligent species gathered at the redesigned Celestial Arena. The massive space station had been transformed from a competition venue into a center for interspecies collaboration. Elena, now Admiral and High Counselor, addressed the assembled delegates. The young captain from a backwater planet had matured into a respected galactic leader, though she still maintained the directness that characterized human diplomacy. 10 years ago, many doubted whether humans deserved to participate in the succession trials, let alone lead the conglomerate, she began. Today, we celebrate not human victory, but galactic unity. As she spoke, emergency signals flashed across communication channels. Long-range sensors had detected an ancient signal originating from beyond the galactic rim, transmission predating even the Thraxian Empire. The gathered dignitaries fell silent as the message translated across thousands of communication devices. It contained not words but a series of mathematical proofs followed by coordinates, an invitation from something older than any known civilization. Fear spread visibly through the assembly until Admiral Shepard stepped forward again. Throughout human history, we faced the unknown not with fear but with curiosity. Whatever waits beyond known space, we will meet it not as conquerors but as explorers. Not alone, but together. She gestured to the representatives surrounding her, former enemies now allies. This is why humans became galactic kings, not because we were strongest or wisest, but because we understand that true leadership means facing the future as a united galaxy. As delegates departed to prepare their civilizations for this new challenge, Admiral Shepard gazed out at the stars. The signal heralded the beginning of a new era that would test whether the upstart humans truly deserved their crown as galactic kings. Somehow, she wasn't worried. After all, humanity's greatest strength had never been technology or power, but the ability to adapt, to connect, and to transform adversity into opportunity. The next chapter of galactic history was just beginning.